is a path to a more peaceful world. Many people are stuck in a place where they're not at peace with their own lives, with their own bodies, and they're constantly looking for quick fixes, or they're looking to repair what they feel is broken. And this is usually because of the messages that we get from our social media, from the society, and we get this message that what we have is not enough, that we are not enough, that our weight, our height, our shape, our appearance, our car, and our house is not enough. And that we need more and more in order to feel happy, in order to feel healthy, and in order to feel successful, right? And what we need not pause to think about is this: whose definition of success are we following? Whose definition of enough are we following? Are we clear on what is enough for us? What brings us contentment? What brings us peace? Or are we following someone else's definition? Because that is a recipe for discontentment, frustration, and resentment, and certainly not happiness. In other words, we are not at peace with ourselves. We are not able to find ways to heal ourselves, mind, body, and spirit. You would not want to be stuck in a place like that, and neither do I. My name is Anindita, and I am a functional medicine certified health coach and practitioner, and I help women with autoimmune conditions discover their own power to heal with their bodies as their guide. So I'm talking about why unleashing our inner healer can bring about more peace in the world through natural progression, because our lives are constantly changing, and so are we. Nothing remains the same, and we all have problems physically. We have wounds because of what our environment is all about, circumstances, many of which are beyond our control. So this wound might be in the form of a physical wound, or an emotional wound, or a psychological wound. It's something that we face in our lives, each and every one of us, right? It's something that we face as we are alive, a living and breathing human being. And on top of that, you're living with a chronic illnesses, life can be really tough, because there can be so many limitations that can be imposed on you, what you can and what you can't do. And maybe you can't make plans to go out anymore with your friends because you're not really sure how you will feel from one day to another, right? Because things are so uncertain. Maybe you are not able to play with your child anymore, or go for that morning jog anymore, because you feel so exhausted even after 8 hours of sleep, and you feel like you need to take naps during the day, you need to sleep more during the day, right? And even then maybe that's not enough, and you're not able to figure out why. And I believe amongst all of this, there is one major price that we pay, or we can end up paying, if you're not able to live our best life in spite of our illness, right? And this is of course true for those of you who don't have any illness or don't have a diagnosis. The ability to share our unique gifts with the world. We are all born with something that is core to us, that's something that nobody can take away from us, and those are our unique gifts. It is our responsibility to actually find them, to explore, to find, and then to bring them with the world and share it with the world. That's when our life will be lived in a most purposeful and authentic manner. As children, we naturally tend to do this. We know what we are good at, and we keep trying, and we explore different things. That's something that comes as a part of being naturally curious and naturally enthusiastic. Because what happens when you share your gifts with the world? You start living a life on purpose that goes beyond your career and your professional life. So you have multiple identities. You're not bogged down by only being a CEO or a manager or a senior manager or a consultant. Believe me, that was a big part of my life, right? And that may be a part of your life, and that's absolutely fine. But what you may not you actually embrace is the other identities that you can have in your life, apart from being a mother or a wife or a daughter or a sister. That can be an identity of a healer or an author or a blogger or a podcaster or a musician or an artist or a swimmer. No, it doesn't matter, right? So that's, that helps you to understand and realize your potential, and that can actually bring you the peace and satisfaction that you actually may be looking for, and you don't even realize it. As I tell my community, as I tell my clients, that when you start doing like this, when you start living like this, you move from being a very warrior to an inner healer. So a very warrior is somebody who is dealing with a chronic illness and who's been told that the only way to get out of this or feel better is to fight her own body, suppress her immune system, avoid sort of listening to her body's messages, all kinds of things, right? And ignoring it. But actually becoming an inner healer is where you are at peace with your body. But to do this, you need to actually change the way you look at life, irrespective of whether you have a diagnosis or not. It doesn't really matter. You need to be honest with yourself and ask yourself questions like, what do I want from life? What are my dreams? What brings me joy? And am I a part of something bigger than myself, so that I am leaving a mark? I am contributing to this world. I'm contributing to this planet. When you ask yourself these questions and become clear about the answers, you move from living a life of quiet desperation to one where you're actually thriving. And you may not even realize that you're doing this. See, most of us are actually, living this life of quiet desperation, where we are constantly, there's a void and we don't really know why. And we are trying to fill that void with all kinds of things. That's where a lot of addictions come from, distractions. We're constantly trying to fill that hole, but that never gets filled because we've not really understood this. Because and that's why we are not really thriving, right? We are just living and we are surviving. And in the case of chronic illnesses, when you view your body as your enemy, you never get to tap into its inner wisdom. You never get to actually allow it to guide you on your healing journey, because healing is a journey, right? Because healing may not be from a diagnosis, because healing is at a physical, spiritual, and emotional level. There can be so many other traumas, so many other wounds, as I mentioned, that go far beyond having that of a physical, having physical symptoms, right? Which is why we all need to be on, or typically, we can embark on healing journeys with or without a diagnosis. And if you can't do that, then what typically happens is that you feel trapped inside your body, and your body may feel alien to you, and you end up living a life that is inherently frightening, uncertain, and unpredictable, right? At all times. So rather than looking for answers from others about how you can feel happy and healthy, you need to go within and get to know yourself better, get to ask yourself better and better questions, so that actually you can get the answers that you're always looking for. And it means that you stop living inside your comfort zone, right? You stop living inside your comfort zone, step out of it, and become clear on what your dreams are. And you need to make the most of your circumstances and your situation, even if there are limitations. And there will be limitations when you are dealing with chronic illness on a day-to-day basis. My daughter, who was dealing with severe eczema at one point in time, she used to love water. She used to love swimming. She used to love taking a shower, like for a really, really long time. And when her eczema became more and more severe, she couldn't do that anymore, because the water used to sting her so badly. She had wounds all over her hands and her feet and her body from scratching, that incessant scratching, right? Because it was not really under control, in spite of whatever we tried to do. And they reached a point where she couldn't get into the swimming pool anymore. So we had to find a way for her to, enjoy a sport, one that did not hurt her. And after some brainstorming and figuring out, and humidity was a problem for her. So living in a hot tropical climate like Mumbai in India did not really help in terms of physical activities. So finally we found that table tennis, because it was in an air-conditioned environment in our house at that time, she was able to enjoy that. So she started learning table tennis, and it really gave her this physical movement, the part of being, the feeling that she was a part of a team, and enjoying learning a sport, because all her other friends were learning different sports, and including swimming, and she couldn't do that. So these are the ways that we learn to make the most of our circumstances in spite of a limitation. And one important question that I want you to ask yourself when you're trying different things, when you're trying new things, because it's not going to happen most likely at one go, you will need to do some kind of trial and error, is what would I attempt to do if I knew I could not fail? What would I attempt to do if I knew I could not fail? And finally, healing requires that we find ways to nourish ourselves, mind, body, and soul, to pay attention to the messages that our bodies are constantly giving us each and every day. Right? It is trying to get our attention, telling us if there's something wrong, if something is missing, some way that we need to take care of it better, and maybe just enjoy our bodies, right? Maybe just enjoy being in them, to make space for stillness in our lives, right? So stillness and quiet, so that we can listen to the messages that our heart is sending us. And this is the way that we can imbibe empathy, compassion, and love, even when we are surrounded by so much of negativity, right? That's what we can do. And becoming an inner healer requires that we do all of this, and it requires us to draw our worth from inside ourselves. It requires us that we lead from our heart and live in alignment with our own values. But how will we know what our values are if we never take time and never create space to find that out, to do some self-reflection, to do meditation, to do journaling, right? There's so many beautiful practices that you can follow. So living a life of where you are doing all of this asks that you realize that the only way to heal others who are in pain and suffering and bring some peace into this world is to lead a life where you heal yourself first, not last, not second. You do this for yourself first, because then this is a world where we raise each other up rather than cutting each other down. This is a world where we find ways to bridge our divisiveness without war or conflict. And we do that again by becoming inner healers, by healing our inner world, so that all man, woman, child, and other living beings can continue to call our outer world, our Mother Earth, our home.